So the Batman, which ran from 2004 to 2008, is quite possibly the most underrated DC show ever. And it's just a show that doesn't get enough love, and just a show that people didn't give a chance. There are two really big reasons why I think people didn't give the show a chance. And people not giving the show an opportunity is the main reason why I think it's regarded as a lesser DC show compared to others such as like all the DCAU shows. While I don't think it compares to something like Batman the Animated Series, I think it did its own thing, and it's good in its own right. And that's one of the biggest reasons I think people didn't check the show out, is because it wasn't Batman the Animated Series. And the showrunners have made it clear that they didn't want the show to be Batman the Animated Series. They knew they couldn't follow with Batman the Animated Series. They didn't want as mature of a show as Batman the Animated Series. They wanted a show that kids could relate to more, could enjoy more, I guess. Even though I do think kids can enjoy Batman the Animated Series just fine. The themes in the Batman just don't go as deep, and the show doesn't have as mature of elements as DCAU shows do, which is fine. It's something different, which is what we want in our shows, right? Diversity. We don't want to see the same thing time and time again. Batman the Animated Series is something that can't be repeated. There's a reason why the show is as iconic as it is, and the showrunners of The Batman knew that. They knew they couldn't repeat it. They didn't think they could live up to it, so they just went in a completely different direction while staying true to the character of Batman. While you can't really get as emotionally invested in the show as you can to other DC shows, or get as connected to the characters, I guess, since this was a kid's show, I would say this is the best DC show that is clearly a kid's show. Sure, all the animated shows before it, all the DCAU shows are kid shows, but you could tell they were making it for adults as well. And The Batman, it seems like a show that was made just for kids, but that adults can also enjoy. There aren't as mature themes as I mentioned before, but you can still enjoy this show as an adult. There may not be as much that you can connect to, but it's still perfectly enjoyable, and that's just what we need sometimes. Now, as I said before, the show, I think, stays true to the Batman mythos. While it shakes it up a little bit, changes things about the mythos, some things are drastically different. I think in its core, the show stays true to those mythos. And by far the most different thing about this show than anything else is Batman's Rogues Gallery. From the designs, their origins, their motives, everything about them are different than anything else. And just one negative I want to get out of the way before I get into the positive of this is that the rogues all kind of have the same motive. They usually just want to kill someone or steal something. That's really all it is half the time. Sometimes it goes a little deeper than that, and those are the episodes I really enjoy. But now I want to get into the number one thing that I think turns people off to this show, and the number one reason a lot of people didn't even give this show a chance is the designs of the villains, particularly the Joker. So many people that I know never watched the show while it was on, and some still haven't, didn't watch it because they saw the design of the Joker and they were like, that's not my Joker, I'm not going to watch it. The design is very different, especially when the show first starts off. He eventually kind of gradually transforms into a more traditional Joker. He's still a lot different from any other Joker you've seen, but I really like that about this show. They make the villains distinct, they make it their own, and their characters are still pretty true to who they are. But as I mentioned before, this is a kid's show, so their characters don't go that deep. Like, we don't get the emotional investment we would in a Batman the Animated Series or Batman Beyond. But back to the Joker design, I actually really like this design. I like how it's so different from anything else. It's clearly the Joker. You see that, and you're like, oh, that's the Joker. Who else would it be? White face, green hair, purple suit, that's all you really need for a Joker. Not to mention Michael Kevin Richardson voicing the Joker, by far the standout of this series. He is a fantastic Joker. Say whatever you want about the design, say whatever you want about this show, but he is an amazing Joker. You can say he's not as good as Hamill, but he's good in his own right. He does his own thing. And it works extremely well within the show.
Joker? I'm the Batman. You see, the thing is, You're not!
The eggs, Penguin, or I scramble you.
A lot of the rogues have voice actors that stand out in the show. The Riddler is voiced by Robert Englund, Penguin by Tom Kenny, Clancy Brown as Mr. Freeze. The voice cast for the show is pretty phenomenal. The only villain design I don't really like in the show is the Riddler, and I think it's made up for by Robert Englund doing the voice and just the character of the Riddler within the show. I think he has the best writing, the best origin, just the best story told in the show, aside from probably Robin. I think for everything the show does wrong, it does something else right. I think it does more right than it does wrong. After season 1 of the show, it really starts Batman to begin working with other heroes or detectives. Like in season 2, he begins to work with Yin. Season 3, Batgirl's origin, he gets Batgirl as a sidekick, works with Gordon. Season 4, we get Robin's introduction and start to get introduced to the Justice League. Then season 5, we get the Justice League and his interaction with all of them. I think a lot of these characters that Batman interacts with could have been fleshed out more, and they could have been more than just someone with superpowers, really the Justice League, and I think Batgirl could have been better as well, but Robin and Yin are two standouts for me. Also, Green Arrow is really great. He's really the only Justice Leaguer that I think the show really fleshes out and gives character to, because we see his origin and everything. Robin's origin is by far the best origin in the story, I think. I wouldn't say by far, I think the Riddler's is close, but Robin's is the best because it's comic accurate. For that episode, they got Mark Hamill to voice Tony Zuko, and Kevin Conroy to voice Dick's father, which is just paying homage to the history of Batman, paying homage to Batman the Animated Series and the entire DCAU, because especially in animation, Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy are legendary as Batman and the Joker. They also bring Adam West in to voice the Mayor, which is really awesome, again paying homage to the character of Batman. The show just does cool things like that just elevate it a little more for me. Also, I've talked about how much I love the Riddler and the Joker in the show, but there's another villain. This is probably maybe my favorite interpretation of this character ever. And the character I'm talking about is Hugo Strange, because really, he's like the big bad of this show. Especially from season 3 on, he's such a big part. Actually, late season 2 on, he's a massive part. He's involved with basically all the Rogues Gallery. You see him at the beginning of the Batman vs. Dracula treating the patients of Arkham. Then eventually he becomes a direct threat to Batman, and he's the one he's basically the key to the joining invading Earth at the end of the series. Like, he's such a massive part, and they serve him justice so well. He's written extremely well. And the only other thing I've really liked Hugo Strange in is Arkham City. So I think this show deserves props for serving a character like that justice, a character that isn't really a core member of Batman's Rogues Gallery, but they really made him like the big bad of the show and one of the main villains, probably the second main villain next to the Joker. He probably appears the second most throughout the show, which is impressive because every time he appeared, he was intriguing. And I feel like his arc throughout the show can be very interesting for kids who don't know who Hugo Strange is, because when you first see him, he's not a villain. Well, he is, but not up front. You don't know he's a villain when you first see him. He gradually evolved into that villain, the mastermind we all know. Also, real quick, I want to make mention of Alfred. I think he's really good in the series. He provides a lot of the comedic relief, a lot of the good comedic relief anyway. There's some comedic relief by other characters that just doesn't work, it doesn't land, but usually when it's Alfred it does, because it's that snarky kind of sarcasm that we're used to in Alfred, like in really any version of Batman. And here and there throughout the series you will get the emotional scenes between Alfred and Bruce, and it can be really touching, which is something that can kind of factor into adults being able to enjoy this show as well, because you can see that father-son connection and connect with that, get invested with that. And the last thing I want to touch on, I don't care what you think of this show, the theme song is amazing. That's something people that haven't even seen the show seem to agree on. The first theme song, the theme song they used in the first 2 seasons, By the Edge, I don't know why they got rid of it. They should have never got rid of it because that was amazing. It was perfect. It somehow fit Batman. I don't know. It's awesome. It's Batman. It's kind of upbeat. One of the best theme songs I've heard in anything ever. I can rock out to that all day long. Anyway, yeah, this show is extremely underrated. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely give it a chance. If the design's turning you off, don't let that fool you. Just watch the show. Let the writing and the animation speak for itself. And if you still don't like it after that, well, there's nothing else I can do. I'm sorry that you don't enjoy it. I think it's a great show. Very much underappreciated in the DC TV community, I feel like. I think it does a lot more right than it does wrong. So if you've seen the show, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Do you think it's underrated? Do you enjoy it? What do you think of the character designs? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys sometime.